Today we have to talk about carbon cycle in terrestrial ecosystem. So the carbon cycle is very important for soil quality management, uh, and it determines or it impact the various soil characteristics. Of course, along with all other uh, benefits for uh, global warming and such kind of conditions. So we will see in this lecture that what are the actual dynamics of carbon in the soil and in the ecosystem, and where we can play a role to enhance the carbon sequestration to the soil, to enhance the carbon content in the soil, and to reduce the carbon content in the atmosphere. A carbon cycle is characterized by very high rates of CO2 uptake and release. If you just look at the maps, you can see here a lot of vegetation. So all these, the yellow and even these colors, so they are basically different kinds of vegetations. And it means, so they are taking a lot of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And at the same time, because it has to be balanced. At the same time, the carbon dioxide is released from the soil or from the system as well into the atmosphere. So this is basically carbon cycle. High intake uptake because we have high vegetation which require carbon dioxide, and then to balance that, there must be a release of carbon dioxide from that ecosystem. So the carbon which has been taken by the plants should be released into the atmosphere to just to have the balance. So as carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere is very less, that is 0.03%. So, of course, nowadays it has been increased. So if you have something in a very low percentage and in low quantities, so the impact will be more. So like nitrogen, we have a 78% nitrogen. So the little bit variation in the nitrogen levels will not impact the atmosphere as high as carbon dioxide, because the carbon dioxide is already in very less concentration, and the a small variation in carbon dynamics will have impact on the overall ecosystem. So release is through respiration of plants and heterotrophic organisms, burning of vegetation and burning of fossil fuels, while uptake is through gross photosynthesis and respiration by plants or autotrophic respiration. This is known as the net primary production. So this is the net primary production, the carbon dioxide which has been or which is being used. Thus, NPP quantifies the amount of plant materials produced that may be available for their organisms, unless it is not harvested for human use, used for bioenergy, or burned by vegetation. So it means that naturally uh, the carbon dioxide, so that of course that keep the balance, but when you are using that, uh, just have a look into that. Thus net primary production quantifies the amount of plant material produced that may be available for their organisms. So this is the uh, net produced, because the production of materials is dependent on the carbon dioxide, uh, and that is available for their organisms. But if we are using them for our utility or for energy, as we are advancing in technology, so we are using a lot of natural products to utilize them to ease our lives. So of course that will disturb the balance. looking at the fluxes, if we have just overlook about that, the main entry as carbon dioxide via photosynthesis. So this is main entry of carbon dioxide via photosynthesis, and this photosynthesis is mainly to the forest area because they are large trees and they are using a lot of carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. Leaves the system as a carbon dioxide, but it leaves the system as a carbon dioxide via autotrophic root stem foliage and heterotrophic microbial soil fauna. Leaching of dissolved organic and inorganic carbon. So leaching can also be done. So the carbon is coming through photosynthesis. Of course, carbon dioxide is being taken up, and then again it is released as majorly as a carbon dioxide to the system. And of course, fires. So they also release uh, carbon dioxide into the system. So that is a natural flux, basically, which is the carbon dioxide is coming into the soil or into the ecosystem, terrestrial ecosystem through the photosynthesis, and then is being utilized here, and then the carbon dioxide is released. So there are certain factors which affect the intake and release of carbon dioxide into the system. For example, if we start just with the nutrition available in the soil, so that determines that how much carbon dioxide will be taken up by the plants and then will be released. Then light, because it has impact on the photosynthesis as well and on the microbial population. Temperature, relative humidity, water stress has impact on this gross primary production, because this impact means this is on the photosynthesis, because the gross primary production, that means the carbon dioxide coming through this photosynthesis. Developmental phase, the plants at different developmental stage, so they have different photosynthesis state, and of course the carbon uptake rates, and the carbon dioxide concentration itself, that also have impact on the GPP, because the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere determines that how much carbon dioxide will be taken up by the plants. So if we look at the carbon dynamics, so we have four major reservoir, which we can say, and if we say that they are in balance, if at this stage in this amount of carbon dioxide, this is in petagram, and the petagram is equal to 10 raised to power 12 kg. So we have atmosphere and JPP, as we have mentioned, 120 petagram per annum carbon dioxide is used in photosynthesis, and 60 petagram is again reversed to the atmosphere through plant respiration. And the deforestation, so which we are doing, so that also decrease 1.6 petagram per annum. So it means the amount which is taken up by the plants, so more than 50% is lost here. And then that other 60, about 60 petagrams, so that is entering into the soil through, of course, the roots and the crop residues, decomposition, etc. And the microbes present in the soil, so they respire and they release 60 petagram to the atmosphere. And then 0.6 petagram is lost into the oceans through soil erosion. So it means the carbon present in the soil is eroded to ocean. So from soil, we have now loss of 60 petagram here, and then 0.6 petagram here. And if we look at the oceans, so they take 92.3 petagram and they release 90 petagrams. It means they are taking 2.3 petagram from the atmosphere. More mean the net intake that is in the ocean. So of course they are contributing in a good way as we have high concentration of carbon dioxide now in the atmosphere. So if they are taking more carbon dioxide compared to release, it is beneficial. And other contributor which is very high, that is 7 petagram per annum. So that is the major anthropological contribution, because we are taking out the fossils from the soil layers and then we are burning them and then we are releasing a lot of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. But generally when we talk about the carbon dioxide concentration, so always the people, they emphasize on the deforestation to reduce the deforestation, although the deforestation is only 1.6. Of course, it's also huge, but if you compare with that, so it's very less. But the reason is that if we are enhancing the use of fossil fuels, which is of course to ease our lives, for industry, for the communication systems, traffic. So we of course we should reduce. Now the people, they are talking about that, but if we reduce deforestation and if we enhance the forest, so that will have or that will reduce the impact of this fossil fuel into the atmosphere. So in this scenario, it is just an estimate. So we have minus 6.3 petagram per annum. So it means we are losing we are losing 6.3 petagram from the soil system into the atmosphere. So, or on the other way, you can see that, or you can say that the 6.3 petagram per annum is being added to the atmosphere, which is enhancing the concentration of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and causing the global warming. So when we are losing 6.3 petagram, so then we talk, or the science insists that we should sequester some carbon. So whatever we are losing into the atmosphere, the some amount must be sequestered into the soil by reducing the emissions. If we look at here, microbial respiration. So that is very important factor, which is releasing carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. So if we work on that and we reduce that, of course we cannot reduce the microbial population, which is very beneficial as well. So, but we have to systemize that so that they can reduce the carbon dioxide emissions. So what is this carbon sequestration? It refers to the provision of long-term storage of carbon in the terrestrial biosphere, underground or in the oceans, so that the buildup of carbon dioxide, the principal greenhouse gas concentration in the atmosphere, will reduce or slow. So this buildup is very high nowadays, as we have estimated 6.3 petagram per annum. So if we sequester and we store carbon dioxide for a long period of time into the soil, so that will reduce the emissions into the atmosphere, and of course the accumulation will be reduced. In some cases, this is accomplished by maintaining or enhancing natural process. In other cases, novel techniques are being developed to dispose of carbon. In some cases, this is accomplished by maintaining or enhancing the natural process, because the natural process is capturing the carbon dioxide from the system. If you enhance that, you will capture more. And you are developed such a system that the carbon dioxide which is being taken up by the natural process, so that can be dumped into the soil for a longer period of time. So which are major factors which can play a role for carbon sequestration? Enhancing photosynthesis, reducing deforestation, improving soil organic matter. So these three major part can play a role to sequester the carbon. The first thing we know, photosynthesis is an anabolic, endergonic carbon dioxide requiring process that uses light energy and water to produce organic macromolecules, that is glucose. So we are getting CO2, or we are producing, we mean the plants, they are producing glucose. So it means that this is a natural process which is taking up carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So if we can enhance that, so we will enhance the carbon dioxide uptake. So so if we intervene to that process, then we must know that how photosynthesis responds. For example, the climatic factors, the light, the temperature, humidity. So they have a great effect. The light intensity has a great effect on the photosynthesis, because the light is playing major role to capture the carbon dioxide. If we have a polluted air, atmosphere, and the right photons, they are not approaching the soil or the plant tissue, so that will have impact on the photosynthesis. Other adaptive factors, mainly nutrition and the availability of water. If that is optimum, so that will have impact on the photosynthesis. Then time dependent factors, particularly the duration of growing season. So there are variation in the seasons, so that has also impact. And then the age of the leaf, so that is also contributing to the enhance or reduce carbon dioxide assimilation or uptake. So the other one, that is deforestation, which refers to the complete destruction of forest cover. It means that the land is converted permanently from forest use to non-forest purpose. So it means we reduce the number of trees, and we reduce the carbon dioxide uptake, which is of course a trend which enhance the accumulation of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. The tropical rainforests in the world initially cover 15 million square kilometers, but have been reduced to 7.5 million square kilometers. So you can imagine that how much forest has been reduced, and that may be the very important reason for a carbon dioxide accumulation into the. So on the one way we are reducing the carbon uptake, and on the other way we are at the same time we are enhancing the carbon dioxide release into the atmosphere by burning the fossil fuel, etc. So this is a dual impact on the atmosphere. World forest area 1990 to 2015, if we just compare that, it's only 25 years, 41.3 million kilometers square were reduced to 39.9 million kilometers. So minus 1.3 million kilometers, million square kilometers. So if we look at the distribution, 46% in China, US 7%, India 6%, and Russia plus, and other countries. So now what is the scenario now? So that was an increasing trend in 1919. What is the scenario now in 2015? So you can see here that there is a major deforestation or forest harvesting in the Brazil Indonesia, then Sudan, Nigeria, Myanmar. So these countries, so they are a major culprit in reducing the forest area. So we have unfortunately very less forest area. Of course, the forest in our countries, so that has also been reduced, but in total contribution, so we have a very less part. So that's it. It's not mentioned here. Uh, Tree cover last, if you look at that from 2001 to 2017, so you can imagine here that we are uh, reducing the tree cover in million hectares. So that is in 2001 that was around about 6.6, and if we look at now that is 16. But from 16 to 17 we have a bit reduction. So that is the awareness uh, which is being communicated to the people. So these are the tropical forest area. You can see the Brazil, then this is in part of Nigeria, then we have China, and we have India here along with the seashore. So we don't have much contribution here. So of course, deforestation impact on climate. Trees maintain the solar radiation balance by absorbing albedo from the sun. So that will impact the global warming, and of course that will impact the photosynthesis as well. Trees decrease the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. In other words, the deforestation contribute to the greenhouse effect and global warming because they take up carbon dioxide. If we deforest, harvest the area, so that will enhance the carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Approximately 40% of the oxygen is provided by the rain forest in the world. So the oxygen will be reduced. The burning trees contribute to the increase in CO2 level in atmosphere. 20% of global increase CO2 is caused due to the destruction of rainforests, mainly due to the burning. Maintains global precipitation patterns. So that is very important because that will impact again on the system. For example, if you look at the global precipitation patterns, distribution of water supply, as water that evaporated from the rainforest falls as rain in the other regions. So it means, so that will affect the moisture on the other regions as well. And if the moisture is not uh, optimum, so then that will also affect the photosynthesis there. So again, there will be less carbon dioxide sequestration. Without the tropical rainforest, the hazard of desertification will increase in many areas. So when there is no moisture there, so that will be desertified, and even the vegetation will be removed. So these are the impact of deforestation on the climate. So what we can do in sequestration? So the first thing, if we can enhance the photosynthesis, so that can be enhanced by different promoting the natural process by enhancing the vegetation cover. Then deforestation. If we reduce the deforestation, we can contribute to carbon dioxide sequestration, and also the less release to the atmosphere due to burning. The third one, that is our organic matter. The components of soil organic are fresh residues, decomposing organic matter. These are the 10% of fresh. The decomposing, they are about 45%, and the stabilized, they are 40%. And the 5%, they are, of course, living organism. So this is the part which is decomposing. This will also be decomposed. So this is the decomposing part, and any alteration in that will enhance the carbon into the soil. If we reduce that and we turn that percentage to the stabilized organic matter into the soil, so that will, of course, sequester carbon into the soil, because when there is a decomposition, there will be release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. A soil organic matter includes all organic matter fixed in place on the soil or already incorporated into the soil. Soil organic matter excludes the living plant and animal tissue. So which I have mentioned in the previous slide. So the living animals, so they are not a part of that. Only the fixed or incorporated, something which is on the surface, that is also not, because that is moving. If it's fixed on the surface, so that is the part of that. Then inputs to the soil are from decomposing plants, vertebrates, invertebrates, and microbes. So of course, when they are living organisms, they die, and so they will decompose and they will become the part of organic matter. Leachate from the leaves through rainfall and exudate from the plant and animals also add. So exudates from the roots and some leaching of organic molecule from the leaves. So that will also contribute because they are organic molecule and they will contribute to the organic carbon. Soil organic matter exists in some stages of decomposition. Decomposition begins as soon as a plant part dies or leachate or exudate is released into the soil. So whenever any exudates or leaches from the foliage, or if you have a decomposing organic matter in, or organic part, organic component into the soil, so immediately the decomposition will start it. In fact, some leaching of substances from plant parts begin before plant death, and some roots decompose while the plant is still alive. So some roots, they are redundant and they are in grasses especially. So they are the plant is surviving, but the roots are dead, and they start decomposing in the same way in the plant shoots. So it is happening also. You can see the senescence before that, and then the decomposition. Two main processes happening at the same time contributing to decomposition. So one thing, that is decay, which describes the biotic breakdown of dead plant organic matter into smaller pieces by soil fauna and microorganisms and related to mass growth. And then the other, that is the chemical, which is a mineralization, describes the release of nutrients in inorganic forms from organic matter, including the release of methane and CO2. So when there is a decomposition, the mineralization process in the decomposition, so that will release the methane and CO2. Foliage decomposition is strongly linked to litter quality. So what is that litter actually? What is that plant part? What is the composition of that? In part due to relative to concentration of water-soluble carbon compounds, cellulose, lignin, and nitrogen. And of course, the environmental conditions, so they also impact. So these both are the major two things which affect on the decomposition. If you have a very good quality litter, the faster will be the breakdown. Because we are talking about the decomposition of the organic matter, where the good quality is that which can be decomposed faster, the breakdown under adequate soil moisture and temperature regime for the microbial activity. So they are of good quality because they are easily available to the microbes and they are easily decomposable. Decomposition of organic matter, so that has basically three phases. So this is the first one, that is the phase one. You can see here the time, and then there is the relative change of litter biomass. So in this, we have the regulation is by nutrient concentration and readily available carbohydrates which are present in the soil or which is present in the organic matter. You can see here the soluble part. And then we have the non-lignified carbohydrates, and then we have lignified carbohydrates, and then we have lignin. So it means at first stage, the nutrient that has nothing to do with the lignin or the lignified carbohydrates. So that will not be much affected. Only the soluble and non-lignified carbohydrates like the sugars, etc., will be affected by the nutrient concentrations, mean the first phase. And the second phase, that is basically controlled by lignin composition, because we here you can see that the other molecules, the non-lignified carbohydrates and soluble parts, so they have similar. The decomposition is constant. There is no effect on that. But the lignin is affected. You can see here that lignin is decomposing. No, the lignified carbohydrates, so they are decomposing. So they are regulated by this lignin composition. And here you can see that there is a bit decrease in lignified carbohydrates, but lignin is constant. And the third phase, everything is constant, and that is the final stage. And the organic matter or carbon in that stage is a long-term process. So it means that will stay for a longer period of time into the soil. So it means the release will be lesser. In organic matter, if you just chemically, if you classify, that is the non-humic substances and the humic substances. And non-humic organic molecules are released directly from cells of fresh residues, such as protein, amino acids, sugars, and starches. And the humic substances, they are the largest constitution of soil organic matter, that is 60%, and are considered as the key component of terrestrial ecosystem, being responsible for many uh, complex chemical reactions in soil. So they cannot be decomposed readily because of their intimate interaction with soil mineral phases. So they are very strongly bound with the soil minerals. So it's not easy for the microbes to decompose them. So these are two major parts of organic matter, or types, the chemical classification. So what is the comparison? The non-humic substances are mostly easily decomposed, while humic are not easily decomposed. So the contribution is 10 to 15% of total organic matter, and the humics, they have more, that is 85 to 90%. Non-humic have variable resistance to chemical and biological degradation in soil and can be broken down further, while humic substances are very resistant to chemical and biological degradation in soil and persist mainly in long-term soil organic matter pool because they do not break down further. So the last stage, the final stage, which I had mentioned. So they have also the same characteristics. They exist mainly in labile soil organic pools and are not a component of humus. So once the end thing is humus, so humus can stay for a longer period of time. So they are mostly labile, it means that they can be further decomposed. Non-humic substances are easily recognizable organic compounds with well-defined structures such as sugar, amino acids, carbohydrates, fatty acids, pigments, proteins, lignins, resins, and waxes. And the non-humic, so the cellulose is a carbohydrate. The cellulose is a carbohydrate. It is also, of course, non-humic, uh, and is probably the single most abundant organic molecule in the biosphere. About 70% of plant structure material is made of cellulose. Wood is largely cellulose plus lignin, while cotton and paper are almost pure cellulose. Rings are held by OH burning. You can see the OH burning here, you can see. Lignin is found in plant structure material and provides high strength to cell wall. Rings are held on complex of O. And have matters attached. Some matters, so they are attached to that. So there are variable rates of, we know that the humic substances, so they are very less rate of decomposition, but in non-humus, so there is also a variation. You can see here different sugar starch proteins, so they are more readily decomposable, hemicellulose, then cellulose, then fats and waxes, and then lignin and phenols. So they are very less decomposable. So you can see here proteins, amino acids, sugars, so they are very fast. Then waxes, they are very slow. Cellulose, so they are also slow. Hemicellulose, they are also slow. And lignins, they are very slow. So these are the distribution of different non-humic substances, because the major part is the cellulose, which is also slow. The faster they are, less in concentration. Lignin is also less. But if you enhance the lignin concentration uh, in that, if the lignin is more, so it means so that will stay more in the soil. The pectins, the waxes, etc. And humic substances, humic acid, the humic substances are extracted by dilute bases, but they are insoluble in dilute acids like those found in the soil solution. Thus, they are stable. So if they were soluble in the dilute acids, so they would decompose easily. Fulvic acid substances are soluble in both acids and base like those found in the soil solution. Thus, they are most easily decomposed humic substances in wetland soil. So, among humic substances, the fulvic acids, they are mostly soluble. Human is insoluble in alkaline soil solutions, thus it's stable in alkaline. So, if so, that will be soluble in the acid conditions. And the humic substances that will be soluble in the alkaline condition. So they both have different characteristics. So if they are present in the alkaline soil, so they are stable, but when they are in the acidic soil, so they are not stable. So that was all about today's lecture. You can see here the distribution of forest, rangeland, cropland, and the deserts, and the land use. This land use is important for everything on this earth relevant to climate change or food security. The land use is very important. So if you are increasing any area, because this is almost in nature, no, there is an increase in the urban areas. If you decrease the forest area, so that will impact. Change in anything in this land use will have impact on all these: soil, water, energy, biodiversity, culture, community, food products. So that was all about today. Allah Hafiz.